Hi there, this is Alvin, and welcome to the Kickstart Commerce podcast, where we share search marketing and domain investing strategies to help grow your business. In today's episode, our guest is none other than Sara Mannix, CEO of Mannix Marketing, a digital marketing agency with one of the largest portfolios of tourism and city guides in upstate New York. Today, Sara and I will discuss her journey into geodomain development, the development efforts of Albany.com, LakeGeorge.com, and Saratoga.com, to name a few. And last but not least, the keys to profitable geodomain development. So with that, Sara, welcome, and thank you for making time to join us today.
Thank you, Alvin. Thank you for having me.
Certainly. So to kick things off, Sara, let's briefly share with the listeners a bit about yourself, who you are, your professional and personal background.
Okay. Well, I live in upstate New York, probably obviously at this point, and near Lake George and Saratoga Springs. Saratoga is a destination for horse racing, beautiful destination year round. And Lake George is very popular with New York City, Boston, basically anybody within a 300-mile radius. I love surfing, adventure sports, snowboarding, and I'm a mom of three personally. And on a business side, I am a digital marketer. I started my business in 1996. I was working for a hotel in Lake George doing their website, and really interested in how I got the website found. How do you make this found in the search engine? Somebody saw that I could do it pretty well and started telling people about it, and started really a web design and SEO business back then.
Nice. I mean, you are quite the quintessential woman then in terms of being outdoors and you've seen quite a bit of the evolution of the internet as well as search marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was really fortunate to be where I was at the right time because the internet was just starting in 1996. People told me it was a fad. I was crazy. The internet's not here to stay. And I kept saying, I don't know. I don't think it's a fad. In 5 years, it's going to be completely replaced by something else. So. Yeah.
Interesting. So how did you get introduced, I guess, into just domain investing and development? And do you consider yourself more of an investor or more of a developer?
Oh, I'm a terrible investor. I have hundreds of domain names that I have no idea how to get rid of that probably are valuable. And I've let really a lot of really valuable names go as well. So I would definitely say I'm not an investor. But I am, I'm definitely a domain developer. So I got started because I realized that being in Lake George, all my clients were tourism related. And I wanted to go to St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. So I started researching traveling to St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. And I found some website called stthomasvillas.com, and all the information was in one place. And I thought, oh my goodness,
nice.
This is such a great idea. We don't have anything like this for Lake George. So I created this horrible website, Lake George, New York.com. It wasn't a pure geo, and it was Sarah's Guide to Lake George, and it was instantly successful. Our clients all wanted to be listed on it, and it did really well. But there was another site, LakeGeorge.com, owned by a guy who wanted the email address, and he put all the hotels on it for free. And when I looked at the Google Analytics, his site, which was not done well for SEO or for ranking, it had no content. It was just a list of hotels, was doing 10 times better than my Lake George, New York site.
Wow.
So I called the guy and I said, hey, do you want to sell? He's like, sure, $5,000. And I said, oh, great. So I went back, tried to work and get all my $5,000 together because I'm a poor, I was just hoping to make $10 an hour back then. It was like my big goal, be a stay-at-home mom and make $10 an hour. It's like by the time but at the same time, I was stupidly sending him business, for $100 a link clients. And by the time I went back to him with my $5,000, he said $25,000.
Yikes.
And then after that, I got my $25,000 together and he said, $50,000. And then when I got the $50,000, he said, well, actually, I think the domain name is worth $1 million. And this is like 2000. And I said, oh, I think it would be worth $1 million someday, but it needs to be developed. It needs all this stuff. So we settled on a sum that would send his kids to college, and and he owns half of it should I ever sell. So if I sell, he or his heirs get half of the domain name sale. So yeah, that is how that one started. And then I really kind of learned the difference between just any domain name and a pure geo domain name, because it did 10 times better than the other sites.
Wow. And so what was the name of that first site was, you said it was
Lake George, New York, all spelled out. I still have it, but we don't do anything with it.
Okay. Gotcha.
And we own lakegeorge.com now, the pure geo. And that was kind of how I started. And then after getting that, I was looking at Saratoga because I had a lot of clients in Saratoga. And there was a tech company called Saratoga.com, Saratoga Technologies, and he was out of Canada. And I chased him for years. And I finally... He kept saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to sell you. And then finally I just said, I called him up and I said, you know what? You're yanking my chain. And he said, you know what? I am. And he laughed. And he said, this isn't fair to you. Meet me in Canada tomorrow and I'll sell it to you. So I called my brother-in-law, who's a lawyer, an estate law lawyer, and he helped me draft something up. My husband's like, you're not going to go and meet this guy who's been yanking your chain for 3 years to buy the domain. I'm like, oh yeah, I am. I'm doing this. Yeah. So I actually didn't drive to him. We ended up overnighting the stuff back and forth, and I literally bought it the next day. And then after that, the state capital of New York was available, Albany.com. Everybody knew that I did this. Somebody called me and said, hey, I think this ISP that owns Albany.com is going out of business. Do you want it? I'm like, yeah, I do. So it kind of grew from there.
Wow. So like in terms of time, so what kind of timeline are we talking about between these projects from one to the next? Are we talking, 2 years, 5 years, or?
Yeah. So I think I started Lake George, New York in 1999, and then finally bought lakegeorge.com in 2000. And then Saratoga.com, I found out about it pretty soon after. And it took me about 4 years to buy. I think I bought that in 2004. And then a couple more years to buy Albany.com. And I couldn't get other pure geos for a while, so I built Adirondack.net out, which is the Adirondack Mountains is a beautiful forever wild park in upstate New York. So I built that out, and then I started building out wedding sites like George Weddings, the Saratoga Wedding, and golf sites and restaurant sites. But truly, the profitability lies in really staying focused on the main tourism sites and doing a good job with Albany.com. So,
interesting. So then how many tourism, I guess, and city guide websites are developed and operating to date?
We have 20, but I would say we really only focus on 5. I should focus on more, but because I got into the business so early, we developed on a program called Cold Fusion, which is and we developed so many fun, funky, really interesting features into our sites. They're all run by one backend. We have our own CRM, project management software, everything home built because there was nothing back then.
Right.
And so we're still on that and we're trying to get off of it. So once we're off of that program and we've rebuilt, then I'll focus on the others a little bit more.
Interesting. So 20 sites, you have 5 that you really focus on. So then in terms of profitability, like how many months or years, I guess, if we were just focusing in on those 5, how long did it take to become profitable with each of those developments?
Each one was profitable instantly, really very quickly.
So definitely. So
I would say
likely
like
in the first
months.
6 to 9 months then, if that.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah. And based on the valuation of what you buy it as an investment over years. But yeah, I would say within the first year, let's just say, I'm not very good with numbers and finance, so that's definitely not my strong point. Some people know, exactly, here's where I got profitable. I was like, my first year, I was like, I made money. This is so cool, So I never lost money. So I guess since day one, I always had a profit that was over the $10 per hour mark. So I was thrilled. And of course, it exceeded my expectations over the years.
Right, and then I go. I mean, you've done well enough that you've also hired a team, I would imagine, and you have a full digital marketing agency. So you've done quite well for yourself, to say the least.
Yeah, and we're kind of a weird. I don't know if there are any other businesses like us. I'd love to meet somebody who is exactly like us. But we're a weird company. We're one company, and we are so interdependent that there's one half of the house is a classic digital agency. We do technical SEO, and there's 15 people on that side, and we are developing websites, doing technical SEO, doing inbound marketing, search engine, paid search engine marketing, social, e-newsletters, all that for clients on the client side. And on the other side of the house, we have this publishing business, which is LakeGeorge.com and Saratoga.com, where we have writers and editors, and it's the same split. It's 15 people. So it's kind of equally split between the two businesses, but it works out. Wow.
Now that's interesting, because that kind of poses the question of, just going how you explained it is, I look at that and I kind of go, you kind of get to eat your own dog food, if you will, in terms of trying out new things on some of these sites, but then being able to take it to the clients, and probably vice versa as well. Things that you try out with clients, if it works well, then you probably take it over to some of these tourism websites.
Yeah, it's nice because we can truly, I can take a hotel and I can help them track their advertising revenue down to the ROI and help them I can make sure their website's designed to convert. I can make sure that they're found from, in organic SEO, and they're doing a good job with their paid search and their booking engines. And then on the other side, they can advertise on our guides, and I know that works for them. So I can show them the ROI because I have full control working with them, and we have a trusting relationship. So it is nice because we can truly be more full service than most, where a client can call me and say, so Americade is a big motorcycle rally. They can call me up a month before Americade and say, I just had a huge group cancel and I have availability for Americade. And if you were just a web developer and a marketer, you'd do paid search, and it's super expensive and it's slow, and it's not going to perform as well. I can put them on my Americade guide tomorrow, and boom, they have business. So I can truly help them and service my client in a way that is good for them and the visitor to the area who can't find lodging and availability during a super busy weekend. All of a sudden, I have the last minute availability for them.
Interesting. Now, do your sites, do they link together, or are they kind of, obviously they're their own standalone sites, but do you cross-link between all of those destinations?
Yeah, we do cross-promote them. They are very different visitors, though. So we are one corridor from Albany to the Adirondacks. So it's interesting. Our tourism is interdependent. People in Lake George will go to Saratoga. People in Saratoga will go to Lake George. People from Albany go to Lake George and the Adirondacks and Saratoga. So we try to leverage that and market them together, but without we don't want to take away from one for the other. So we do it in a very strategic way to help each other, for sure, but we don't overly do it. But the back end is completely connected, so that if an advertiser is valuable, has value to two different destinations, we can put them in both places. So if somebody's going to drive to a ski area, that ski area might want to advertise along the entire corridor, so we can help them. And I only have to input them in one place, and it feeds out to all the sites.
Interesting. So, because that is an interesting concept in terms of having that one back end, but you're able to go to multiple places. So then, in terms of like the development projects in and of themselves, like which one was the most challenging and why?
I would say it's really one development project because it's one massive back end. And I'm going to, honestly, I still am redeveloping the site, and it's been ridiculously challenging because we're overly complicated. So that is challenging. Going from an older system to a completely new system is challenging, even for a dev agency. So I think it's really nice if you're starting from scratch. You have the world at your fingertips. It's so easy, and you can develop on new modern technology. So we have a little bit of a dinosaur issue going on, but it also is a strength because we've developed things that no one else has. We have an event calendaring system that is amazing. We can feed people can choose from anycity.com. Oh, I'm interested in events, in Lake George, Saratoga, and Albany, and they can get all of them. You can't get that anywhere where you have truly a comprehensive list. And we're that only solution. So we also work with our chambers, our city centers, all that, and they take our feed of events. And so we all have really consistent, phenomenal events calendars because we work together and we coordinate, but that's all because the technology in the back end is so good. But it's also a dinosaur technology, so it's kind of a catch-22. It works really well, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that you can't find cold fusion programmers. So we have to get off of it. They're going to die. Nobody knows how to code this program. So yeah.
Interesting, yeah, because I remember dating myself here, working with Cold Fusion some time ago. It was probably around about the early 2000s, and then kind of making that switch towards working with WordPress. And so that's one of those things of you have something so great, yet it's the supply of people that is slowly drying up. So that is interesting. So then in terms of, obviously you have the technical challenges, then like what did you, I guess so if I'm looking at it at a macro level, like what is the greatest challenge in terms of operating and sustaining a geodomain website or group of websites outside of the technical challenges?
Well, I think for sure, geodomains have changed. So in the old days, you just created a directory and you were the only place to find places to stay, things to do, restaurants, all of that. And there's hotels.com. There's all these other places. And you were the only place to find events. And people post their events on Facebook, and they find events on Google, and there's Google Local. And so there's a lot more competition. Surprisingly, it has not really affected our traffic. But we've had to work harder for it. Where before you just could slap up a website and bam, you were the ultimate source of everything. Now you really have to develop phenomenal content. People don't just want to find a listing. They want to know what you think. They want to read articles. They want to see photos. They want influencer information. And we are that influencer. So we are the influencer for Lake George. We are the influencers for Saratoga. And so we've become much more editorially focused. And we have, we have 5 million visitors to our website per year. Wow. They view 24 million web pages. So they do love the site, and they come on and they're reading articles. They'll spend four minutes reading an article. And so it's more of we are now influencer marketing versus a directory. So I think it's more about, they still use our directory, which is amazing to me that we get, 100,000 people going to the hotel section to find a hotel when there's hotels.com, but they want to see our take on it. They like our format, and so it works.
That's interesting. So it's really very much like you said, then so they're now finding they're either finding it by way of search or it's being shared, but they're finding content in which that is likely engaging them, which then kind of leads to, I guess, that whole directory kind of a setup.
So our writers will research things that people are interested in. So say they're interested in ice bars, will be like top 5 hotels with ice bars, and we'll really we have photography, we have great stories about those ice bars and when to visit and all of that, which it makes it really easy for them to plan their vacation. And people are looking for really specific things that you really can't find on the big booking sites, and they have a little bit of a lack of trust of them. So they do want to read what we say about these different hotels and how which ones we're recommending and what we're saying is special and unique about them, because they don't necessarily know how the generic sites are just that. They're generic, and people want a little bit more rich information.
Interesting. So then in terms of the, kind of taking a step back to say, hey, there are listeners likely out there, they live in different areas, and they're thinking, well, man, if Sara could do this, I could likely do it as well. So what key factors, should someone be considering when assessing the feasibility of, developing a website for a geolocation or region?
I would say the qualities you need to possess are you need to love the region and love the community and truly want to promote it as a tourism destination or a community. It doesn't even have to be a tourism destination. There are a lot of successful, very small businesses that are highly profitable doing small local communities, and it's about knowing what the community and the visitor to that site is interested in, and being a good writer and a photographer. It's all about the visuals, or having that access to that and having a partner that can do that part of it. You do have to be great at content. So knowing content and loving content, that at least to start, you need a partner that does that, or you need to do that yourself. Or be, so you have the biz dev side, the person who's going to go out and talk to people and love the biz dev, but you're also going to have a really great content partner.
Now that makes a lot of sense, which I was it's kind of funny in terms of you leading from that content area, because then the other side of that obviously is the personal touch. It's kind of like you're likely, you could, but you're likely not going to be able to stay behind a closed door and spend most of your time just typing content and, making things look pretty on a website. It's more like you're probably going to have to get out there into the community, especially once you start talking about advertisers or trying to secure those advertorial relationships.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Interesting. So then what are 1 to 2 things that you would say were just critical, to your geo development success?
Long hours. Lots and lots of long hours when I started. I think it's really, for me, it's the farther away it is from you physically, the harder it is to run a great geodomain, because you really have to know what's going on in the community. And I think it's one of our unique selling points is we are within a 50-mile radius of all the domain names that we own. So we can go and take pictures. We know what's going on. We can listen at the chambers. We can talk with the chamber presidents about the new things coming in, and we can work together to make our destinations powerful. And you're part of the solution to bringing tourism in, and versus being somebody who's just putting out a site that really doesn't have any depth. So I think it's really about loving your destination, being a part of it, being willing to be a part of it, and writing great content. And I guess I'm sure you can make money without being near your destination, but
that seems to be hard.
But you can do, but you'd have to have lots of them. But if you're you're not going to touch the revenue potential. I kind of wonder if I just developed only one, if I would be the same amount of profitability as all 10, because there's so much opportunity even within one domain name. You don't need to have 10 or 20. If you just do one really well, it will provide all the income you want, you hope for, I would imagine. And
interesting. And so it's like the whole, instead of spreading them across 10 and only, I guess, having a shallow or only touching the shallow surface part, it's like take the one and go as deep as possible.
Take one destination.
Just as rewarding.
Right. Like with, I think you interviewed Jessica. We both kind of have a little bit of the same perspective of you can go deep in that one destination, and you can do real estate specific, you can do golf specific, you can do a lot of things, and they all tie together, and it makes a lot of sense. And for me, my corridor of sites is a similar situation where it's really Upstate New York. It's a destination that they all share a lot in common, so they work together. But I think if I had to then just start one in California, I wouldn't be as successful unless I was moving there.
Interesting. So then in terms of obviously back in 1996 versus today, like what's different? Obviously there's a lot that's different, but in terms of really looking at, what's the one game changing thing that you go, oh, had I had this one thing back then, I'd likely be even that much more successful.
Oh yeah, I would have, if I had built a reservation platform back then. So if I had, I think building your own reservation platform that can do what the visitors want. It's a big endeavor, but I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And I think it still is, because if you can pull into it, or maybe buy one that's out there that's good, but maybe not quite, maybe it needs some tweaking. But I think there's still opportunity right there. If somebody wants to build one or wants to partner with me on one, I'm interested in that, because there really isn't anything out there that you can own that does a great job, that's ADA compliant for accessibility and everything else for a smaller business. Chambers need that that as well. Every destination in the country needs that, so that this personal, beautiful influencer website can also sell, versus using the booking.com engine and taking commission. That doesn't really allow you the flexibility to be truly special. So that isn't built yet. So that's an idea for somebody out there who's interested. That's one thing. There's probably more. I think I had started doing reviews before TripAdvisor, and my clients flipped out, and TripAdvisor came out, and they were very upset. And I wish I had gone bigger on those reviews on the review side. But my clients are like, no, people are only going to write bad reviews. I'm like, eventually it'll all weigh out. But the future is people don't just want a hotel or a restaurant. They want a good one. So let's let the proof be in the pudding. So yeah, I think that's changed a lot. But for today, what would I do differently today? I'm pretty happy. I think that it just constantly being open to change and evolving as a domain developer, and looking at what people want, who's coming to your site, and really knowing them, and just constantly figuring out what questions they ask. How can I make their life easier? And creating those solutions. And every destination is going to be different. So finding what people are truly interested in, and really kind of keep focusing more, even more and more on that.
Oh, good deal. So then in terms of, and you touched on, many things, but then even kind of looking forward, so obviously there are listeners, again, that they hear you, they'll likely be taking notes and say, oh, okay, these are things that I need to be looking out for in terms of if I were to go start today for a given region, or even down to a neighborhood. But then how would you look at or describe whether or not geodomain development is lucrative? Obviously, we hear things in terms of domain investing to where they say, oh, well, all the good domains are taken. And of course, those guys are making money, or the people are making money back then from the 90s who got in early. Of course, they're going to make their money today. But is it still possible to make a lucrative living doing or launching a geodomain today?
Oh, absolutely. 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 You should absolutely do it if you have a pure geo, or even you just love your community and you want to build one. I would say absolutely. It's very profitable. So, yes.
And then in terms of that, it's like looking in now, obviously there are different, I guess you'd say, different types of advertisers, different businesses, if you will. Now, from what I've heard, obviously, like having interviewed Jessica, having interviewed Peter Askew, and I want to try to run this past you just to even see if you'd be in agreement, is that, most of them, they were like, well, hey, if you do go the geodomain, especially if it's tourism, that you'd want to likely focus on hotels or businesses with higher profit margin versus the lower end of the spectrum. So think in terms of going, well, a nail salon is likely not going to be able to provide what a hotel can, or maybe if that nail salon is a spa, So would you agree that it's kind of one of those things to go, you have to really be targeted in terms of what advertisers you're trying to reach or help your people reach?
Yeah, that's such great advice. So I'm a bleeding heart, and I want to help every small business, no matter how small, be successful. And that's really not a wise businesswoman decision, because you spend 10 times more effort trying to make that small business person successful on a very tiny budget, and you really don't make any money. And the larger companies, the larger hotels, the larger hotel groups, the bigger the attraction, the bigger the growth mindset of the client. So, we have a small winery, Adirondack Winery, and it's just a tiny little retail shop, very, very tiny. And the woman who owns this, Sasha, has a brilliant growth mindset. So she's created massive events for the Adirondack Food and Wine Fest and all that. But she doesn't question spending on advertising, because she understands it. She wants to grow. She started this tiny little business, and she's grown it massively. And working with somebody that may be a small business but with a growth mindset, that's totally fine. But working with somebody who says, I only have $300 to spend, well, you are wasting your time. So I think that advice of it costs so much less to do business with the bigger spenders in your area, and focus your site towards that, so that you're helping them, you're solving their problems, you're sending good quality leads to them. That makes all the sense in the world. And I think a lot of us get really wrapped up in, I'm going to help this small little retailer that probably isn't going to be in business in 4 years, because, I'm a bleeding heart. And you have to think, well, how do I help? A rising tide helps all. So if I'm bringing more people to the hotels, if I'm selling the bigger attractions, they're going to go into that retailer, and that helps the community overall. And that's my contribution, and that's how I'm doing it. And of course you can do your gimmies. You can do a nice story on that retailer, but that's not where you're going to make money. You're going to make money by focusing on definitely on the lodging sector, depending on the type of lodging you have in your area. The restaurants are hard. Even restaurant owners are the busiest people on the planet, so they're hard to reach. So it's a lot of work for a little bit of turn, unless it's the restaurant group that really gets it and they have their own internal marketing people. But larger attractions, really helping them out is critical. And you can even create a program with your chambers and your groups where you're doing tourism promotion for them, and they will invest to help their area grow. now. So a lot of domainers see the chamber as their competition, and the chambers definitely will see you as competition and tell you, you kind of maybe show them the way of, you can actually work with us and we can help you and we can work together for the greater good. It is a little bit of compromise, but it's possible.
Nice. Nice. So then wrapping up here. So obviously it's kind of like first things first, everybody has heard really all this invaluable content that you've shared and thoughts and bumps and bruises and cuts and everything of your journey. So in terms of starting a website around, a passion, interest, or business idea relating to a geodomain website, where should someone start?
I think the first thing is really finding the top sites out there that you want to emulate, that the destinations are really similar, and see what they're doing, talk to those people. I'd love to start a mastermind group of geodomainers again. I have one of sorts. There's 4 or 5 of us who get together every once in a while, but it's been too long. I think we do need to help each other and create a mastermind. So that's something I think I'll be doing in the next year. So I would probably say that would be a good start, because you do need to have people to look up to help you and to help you grow. I would definitely do online research and see what are the numbers, how many people are searching for this town, this destination, what keywords are they looking into? I would really want to know what people are asking the search engines, and know and use that to formulate what the site should revolve around, so that you're really using analytics to help drive that. I think that would be my idea, but I would just say, just do it. Like Jessica once said, somebody said, how do you run every day? And she says, I just put my sneakers on and I go. And once I have my sneakers on, I have to go. It's like, so don't wait for anything. Just do it. Don't overthink it. Just start it. But as you start it, do the research, do everything, but just make yourself do it tomorrow, because the longer you wait, the harder it will be to be successful. So don't wait, dive in. If an influencer who all they do is, take pictures and write a little bit of copy with no domain name, nothing that's truly memorable can be successful and make millions of dollars. Imagine what you can do with a good domain name, a great business mind, and being very targeted to that destination. It's totally possible. So go for it.
That is awesome. Just do it. Just go out and do it. Because if not, somebody else will. I put your Nike sneakers on and just do it. We now have let's go after them for some sponsorship dollars.
Some influencer sponsorship dollars of this podcast. This podcast is brought to you by
Just do it. Oh my goodness. That is phenomenal. And so I guess, is there anything else that you'd like to share with listeners if they have any additional questions, or, how might they contact you, or where might they find you?
You can contact me at sarah@lakegeorge.com. If you ever come up to Upstate New York, don't hesitate to look me up. We'll go out, have lunch on the lake. It'll be beautiful. And I think don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Certainly. And so with that, we're out of time. So Sara, thank you again for joining us today and sharing your entrepreneurial journey, developing domains into proven, profitable businesses.
Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. And listeners, thank you for tuning in to Kickstart Commerce, where we share search marketing and domain name strategies to help grow your business. Please subscribe to this podcast via iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or Podbean. Last but not least, please visit kickstartcommerce.com to subscribe to the newsletter sharing tips and tricks about the disciplines of digital strategy. Thanks, and that's all for now.